Sup all, welcome to Political Fight Club. I'm your host Robert Durden. I'm going to do a show for you tonight and I'm going to take down one person. I'm picking a fight with them tonight and I'm going to beat the living shit out of them. And that person is Louis DeJoy, our Postmaster General. Now, let's go over the rules real quickly here. Rule 1, talk about Fight Club. Rule 2, pick your battles, know your shit. Rule 3, know your opponent. Rule 4, keep the debate on topic. Rule 5, admit when you're wrong. So first half of this show is going to be totally me just battering Louis DeJoy. I'm going to talk about what he did to try to rig the election for Republicans, and I'm also going to talk about what his new plan is that has just recently surfaced. And then I'm also going to talk a little bit more in the second half of the show about the USPS getting their new contract for vehicles. That happened yesterday. That's been ongoing for 6 years, where there were a bunch of companies trying to vie for producing all of the vehicles for the USPS. A couple of those were all electric vehicle companies, which was super exciting because that's what Joe Biden wanted for his fleet about a month ago. And on the campaign trail, he was talking about going to e-vehicles. And spoiler alert, the contract went to someone who doesn't make e-vehicles. It went to someone who makes biodiesel hybrids. So Joe Biden went back on that as well, so I'm going to batter him a little bit in the second half. So let's talk Louis DeJoy first. I like to call him the Human Shart, and I think it's fitting because for a couple of reasons. Because he's kind of the personification of a shart, and he's Trump's shart. And this is why it works so well, is Biden has now moved in and taken Trump's dirty underwear with Louis DeJoy, the Human Shart, inside and put on that underwear. And everybody around Biden is just going, "Sir, do you want to put on some clean underwear? You really don't want to put on that shart-filled underwear." And Biden's like, "No, I don't really care. I kind of like this. It's nice and warm from when Trump was here." He could fire him. Now, I want to get technical. He can't actually fire him, but what he can do is fire all of the board of governors for the USPS, all 9 of them, and replace all of them with people who would fire him, because that's who can fire him, is that board of 9. So I want to be clear. Zephyr Teachout said this, Robert Reich. It's out there. We can absolutely get rid of him. The only reason Louis DeJoy hasn't been fired right now is because it's a 4-2 advantage, and there's some vacancies. The other option is that Biden could just simply fill those vacancies with people he knows will get rid of DeJoy. But there are people that suggest just firing all of them because you can for cause by just saying they were complicit in DeJoy's basically rigging of the election, or trying to rig the election, which brings me to my first point. If you remember correctly, Louis DeJoy was Postmaster General for I think 8 months under Trump, and he was the one that was responsible for all of that voter suppression. He was removing mailboxes from areas that were specifically, like Democratic areas and city areas that tend to vote highly Democratic, while leaving the mailboxes open in more rural areas that were going to vote Trump. And there were other things that he was doing too, like he was trying to slow down the mail service deliberately because he knew that COVID was going to see a ton of mail-in ballots, and he knew that most mail-in ballots were going to be from Democrats. So the more he could gum up the works with the USPS, it was going to be more advantageous for Republicans during the election. So that's what he was installed for by Trump, by the way. That's why he was put in there. That was he was put in there with just enough time to go in there, and that was his mission. And he didn't succeed, but he tried. And why is he there? If Biden has the choice to get rid of him, why doesn't he? Especially now that we know what his new plan is. Now, this is a recent development. His new plan, it's been more or less leaked that he's going to get rid of the option of sending first-class small parcels locally, and instead make all first-class stuff under the same rate. So with the USPS, they can move stuff locally, especially smaller stuff, in a quicker time and for a little bit less. And what DeJoy wants to get rid of is that option, lump everything in to a one rate, And he's also moving non-local and local things onto the same trucks. So that will extend the amount of time it takes to get your parcels to you, and it also gets rid of the 1 or 2 day time span that you can send a letter or something small locally, and instead put it on the same truck as the stuff that's going non-locally that's big. And so they estimate that that will extend the time span from 1 to 2 days on small objects and letters to 3 to 5 days. And he's doing this on purpose. So this is his new thing, is it's going to jack up rates, and it's going to slow down the process, that's exactly what he's in there for. So Biden, no bones about it, promised that he was going to get rid of this fucker. And this was like a month ago, and he also said it on the campaign trail. I read an article in Common Dreams that was written around Christmas, because this was a huge problem with getting Christmas parcels out around then. And they were like, as long as Trump's president, DeJoy's job is safe. But if Biden's president, he's done. And Biden was talking about it then, that, yeah, if I get the presidency, DeJoy's done. Then why does he fucking have a job, Joe? Oh, I'll tell you why. Because you're full of shit on everything. This is, again, more evidence that Joe Biden and Trump on paper are more or less the same. And until he proves me otherwise, I'm just going to keep saying it. So, Joe Biden needs to just fire all of the Board of Governors for the USPS, all 9 of them, replace them all. He needs the Senate to do that, but he has the 51 votes in the Senate, if you include Kamala Harris, and even Tammy Duckworth from Illinois, where I live. She's a Democrat, but as moderate as they get. She was like vehemently for getting rid of Louis DeJoy and replacing all of the Board of Governors. So you're going to get the votes. What's the holdup? So the Human Shart, Louis DeJoy, is actually being seen. He's being questioned by the House Oversight Committee and Reform today, which means that Katie Porter, I think AOC, and some others will get a shot at him. I'm not doing that live. I'm not going to watch it. I'll look at the highlights later, but I hope they absolutely batter that human dick. So we'll see what happens there. Now I'm going to move on to the second half and why I'm also more angry than simply what Louis DeJoy did and what he's planning to do. The government contract that came through for the USPS yesterday or the day before was a multi-billion-dollar contract that has been being bidded on by multiple companies, both American and non, to build the new fleet of USPS trucks. The USPS trucks we have right now were built between 1988 and 1993 or 1994. And they were supposed to go out of commission and be replaced around 2010, and they are now almost 11 years past when they were supposed to be replaced. Biden was very clear on the campaign trail that he said he was going to make the USPS fleet all American and all electric vehicles. It was, again, something he was pretty clear about, and I thought that was a very small step, but I'm like, yeah, that's a pretty good idea. So as it turns out, the bidding war is over, and the company that got the contract is called Oshkosh Defense. What do you know? A fucking defense contractor got the USPS contract for multiple billions of dollars over the next 10 years. So what does this get us? Let me first say that Oshkosh Defense does not make e-vehicles. They only make a hybrid biodiesel engine that they use in certain military vehicles. So they don't even have e-vehicles. They need $482 million right up front to simply start building the factory to build their e-vehicles, which they have not built yet. So it's like, oh, are you kidding me, man? So, but they're not building e-vehicles, let me be clear. It said specifically that they're going to build some e-vehicles, but mostly like biodiesel, but combustion engine vehicles that can be upgraded towards e-vehicles over the decade. So they're supposed to build 165,000 of these things over the next decade, multiple billions of dollars going to this deal. It's supposed to be finished around 2031. And can you imagine if these are still combustible engines and they're all finally getting out there and starting to hit the road in 2031? The last ones lasted 40 years. These ones will last 30 or 40 years. That means the next shot we're going to get at like turning our USPS to electric vehicles will be in like 2060. This is the last shot. So, and here's the worst part, man. There's more than this, okay? There were plenty of electric car companies bidding for this contract. They were neglected. They were not given the contract. One of them, who was considered one of the favorites to get it, was called Workhorse. And they're based in Ohio, and they did not get it. And here's the real kicker. I'm seeing out there that they actually underbid Oshkosh by a significant amount to get the contract, as much as like 30 or 40%, I'm seeing, and they still didn't get it. So think about this. This is ridiculous for 4 reasons. I told you this Workhorse is based in Ohio, the Rust Belt that's been decimated by neoliberals like Biden, like Clinton, NAFTA, TPP. You go with Workhorse, they already have a factory in Ohio. You're going to create tons of jobs creating new actual e-vehicles. That's 1. 2, you don't need to fork over $500 million immediately for them to build a factory. 3, Oshkosh has not made any electric vehicles yet, so who's to say that they're even going to be able to, give you an accurate price tag on making these things? They may cost you way more. And the last thing is, they're a fucking defense contractor. Like, this is bananas that you're going to spend more money to give it to a defense contractor. You're going to spend a lot more money up front to specifically stay away from e-vehicles. This is insane. This is insane. So you're not even making the austerity argument. You're just hoping that no one notices that you just ignored giving this contract to an e-vehicle company so that you can keep basically fossil fuels in business for another half century because you're bought and paid for by them, Joe Biden. And Louis DeJoy is not going anywhere because Joe Biden and Donald Trump are about the same. They're about the same. Prove me otherwise. Prove me wrong. But I've been talking about this nonstop for the last couple of weeks, and Joe Biden doesn't make a single good decision. He never changes anything. Nothing has fundamentally changed, so I guess that's one promise you haven't gone back on, is that nothing is fundamentally going to change. And if this contract is basically done, we're going to spend way too much money on vehicles that are not running on entirely renewable energy or not e-vehicles, and we're going to be stuck with it for 30 or 40 or 50 years, all because Joe Biden wouldn't keep his word on trying to convert our USPS fleet to e-vehicles. And that was just 2% of what we really need to do to get ahead of climate change. So, boo! Oh my God, I'm so sick and tired of these fuckers. I can't handle it, man. This was an easy one, and nobody's going to be talking about it. Hopefully someone other than me will pick it up and run with it, because it's seriously huge, and it's a huge step backwards if you really care about climate change. Good Lord. All right, guys. That's all I've got for you on this one. I'm going to try to do one more episode tonight, but no guarantees. So keep fighting the good fight out there, and if you can, get on Joe Biden and crush Louis DeJoy. Like, batter those fuckers. They need to be bullied. And Biden specifically needs to be bullied to simply do what he said he was going to do. Fire DeJoy. It's just Trump's Shart left over. Change your underwear.